Well, on the very first night of the curfew for minors in our nation's capital, police stopped nearly 20 violators on Saturday night. The curfew was imposed after a large crowd of rowdy teens gathered at the Navy Yard the night before on Halloween, prompting the National Guard to spring into action. Now, that led to multiple arrests, one of them a suspect who was reportedly carrying a knife. That curfew returning after the city council had let it expire. Meanwhile, President Trump says he has the authority to use the military to stop this lawlessness.
If you had to send in the Army or if you had to send in the Marines, I'd do that in a heartbeat. You know, you have a thing called the Insurrection Act. You know that, right? Do you know that I could use that immediately and no judge can even challenge you on that? But I haven't chosen to do it because I haven't felt we need it.
So you're going to send the military into American cities?
Well, if I wanted to, I could, if I wanted to use the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act has been used routinely by presidents, and if I needed it, that would mean I could bring in the Army, the Marines, I could bring in whoever I want.
All right, Kaylee, you live in D.C. Talk to us about what's going on and what the community feels about this.
Yeah, so the footage that you saw from Navy Yard, this is a neighborhood in D.C. where the ballpark is. Many families live down there, young adults live down there. That is a frequent occurrence. Just rows of teens roving around. This has happened at least 4 to 5 times since earlier this summer, which is why the city has implemented a curfew on and off over the past several months. But a curfew is pretty pointless if you don't actually enforce it. And this is why it's a very good thing that the National Guard is still present in my city, because they're actually able to help the D.C. cops get control of the situation. And it strikes me, you know, walking around my neighborhood in Capitol Hill, frequently you'll see some of the National Guard troops. They're very polite. They're just simply doing their jobs. And they frequently get stopped by some of my liberal neighbors who just want to understand, why are you here? And you'll overhear these conversations, and they just say, look, we're here to help do our jobs. And if we're not doing anything, that's far better than us having to do something in the first place. So I would like to thank these troops for doing their part to keep our community safe and to help get situations like this under control.
I echo that gratitude. I know we all do. And Harris, I'm curious, why don't the liberal neighbors stop and ask the criminals, what are you doing here? I mean, come on.
Because they're siding with them? They think that they need the summer of love in Chicago. They need room to kind of grow and breathe and whatnot. Look, the really frightening thing to me about this is that these are all minors, and nobody could get them under control. So where are the parents that these kids belong to? No one has control over hundreds of teenagers. And I got the news alert on my phone over the weekend, limited minor crackdown. I'm like, limited minor crackdown? Is it minors? Nope, it's spelled with an O. What is this? And it was all people under the age of 18 having a curfew in this district. And I said, oh, gosh, something horrible must have happened. I look at the video, and they're just acting crazy and destroying things. And I don't know. We have an intolerance right now to give consequences to people who break the law. And when they're minors, apparently, we want to give them special treatment. So I like this. I just don't know if this is going to be a permanent solution.
And the problem that I see, Kaylee, is that this has been framed by the left as sort of a juvenile, in a benign way issue. Oh, it's kids having fun. But the reality is that, as we know, the majority of violent crimes being committed there in D.C. in certain sectors were juveniles. They were minors. So this is not a benign impact. The property destruction and the fear, the violence, and even more. So juveniles behaving really badly on the adult level require commensurate policies to push them back.
For sure. Not benign at all. And in fact, I'll read you a quote from District Attorney there, Janine Pirro, who said this last Thursday. Eric, that was the congressional intern that was killed, died alone, no mother, no father, no sister. Why? Because 3 teenagers, right? 3 teenagers, 2 17, 1 18, all accustomed to getting away with criminal behavior because they lived in a district that didn't take it seriously. They never believed they would be punished, so they kept moving, and they killed young Eric. This curfew is much needed. It's long overdue. And when you look at the curfew violations at 10:40, there are 14 juveniles roaming around that get in trouble by the police. Then you go to 12:24 a.m., 2 juveniles encounter. What's a juvenile doing out at 12:24 a.m.? Then you get to 2:51 a.m., 2 more juveniles. This is parenting, too. Yeah. Give your kid a curfew. It shouldn't take the district enforcing a curfew to make this happen. It should be parents involved, too, making it not get to that point.
Yeah, and I'll never forget the horrific death of an Afghanistan interpreter, our ally, who had fled Baltimore because of the violence, only to be murdered by juveniles on the streets of D.C.
Look, the parenting thing is important. Where are the parents? But there are a lot of unqualified parents. And by the way, I dug into this story a little bit more for radio. When you look at what happened there, fights broke out between these young people. Now, we don't know who was over 18 or under 18. By the way, if you're 18 years old, you're an adult. You've matriculated, so you should be charged.
You can fight for the country at that age.
You could, exactly. You can raise your right hand. But also what's missing in D.C. is what's missing in a lot of these liberal cities. And I may not know the specifics of this crowd, but you look at the high instance of single-parent households, broken households in these cities. And in D.C., it's one of the highest, like Baltimore. When you look at those areas, you're going to get kids who are uncontrollable because the parent is either unqualified or unable. So they've got to tackle this, not just at a law enforcement perspective, not just in punishment, but they've got to do something in these cities to bring back social order within the city itself.
Well, how about adults just take responsibility for their kids? Like, why do we have to pay the price that they aren't good parents or didn't have circumstances where they could ever become a good parent?
Yeah, instead of giving them excuses, punish and make sure that they have responsibility.
Yeah, it looks like we've all shouldered that burden.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.